go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Before You Bet. Aaron live right now on the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like and that subscribe button right down there. Great big show planned for you guys today. John Middlekauff will be by here in a matter of seconds to rip through some of the hot topics in the NFL, some best bets for the NFL as well. And also he'll be weighing in on the Army-Navy game going down on Saturday, the back half of the show. NBA Cup coverage. We got 2 games tonight, 4 total picks from myself and Jon Metler. If you guys want to participate in the show, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube, on X. Nairobi Pittman in there saying, here we go now, baby. You're goddamn right, baby. Stretch run to Christmas, 2 weeks from today. Christmas, baby. Let's go. A lot of football action over the holidays. Let's get into the Week 15 football action with our guy down there in Arizona, former scout for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jon Middlekauff. John, what is shaking?
How we doing? Doing good.
Good, man. So help me make sense of this Bill Belichick, North Carolina stuff. I saw that he was interviewing with them last week, and apparently it's getting pretty serious. I can't make sense of it. I thought that, he's been a lifetime NFL guy. I thought he was pretty dead set on going after the all-time coaching wins record that belongs to Don Shula. What's going on? Is there no market for him in the NFL, or he just likes the college situation maybe?
Well, I think there are a lot of angles. I think last year when he got fired and he really only had one opportunity, it had to be pretty enlightening. And then when he had the one opportunity that everyone involved with the Falcons beside the owner wanted no part of him. So I think he's clearly one of the smarter guys in the history of sports in terms of intellectually has to realize that there's no guarantee, right? Woody Johnson, he hates him. He's never working for the Jets. Bill Belichick wouldn't work for $100 million to answer to Kevin Warren. You look at the Jags situation. Well, what if he thinks Trevor Lawrence isn't any good and you're financially stuck with him? I would say at this point in time, the Cowboys are by no means any guarantee to come open. After Jerry's comments, you just watch Mike coach. It's like, well, how are they upgrading over Mike McCarthy? And Jerry's clearly not, doesn't feel like in the mood to go on a coaching search. So maybe he goes, college football's changed dramatically. It's now much closer to the NFL. He talked about that with McAfee the other day. And if he gets assurances for NIL, how much money we can pay the players, that's advantage me. I'm used to doing that stuff. And unlike the pros, which is clearly pushing back on Bill's kind of, I don't even want to use the word power hungry, but head coaches have a lot of juice and he would have more because of his resume. Well, he would get all that in college. And the other thing is it feels like he's going a little LeBron James of he wants to take care of his son. And listen, it's easy for everyone to be critical on the outside, but I think the whole point of anyone at the highest level in a competitive industry is to dominate. And when you dominate like LeBron James or like Bill Belichick, sometimes you get leverage and you got to use it. And if there are only so many programs, if the rumors are real that he wants to make Steve Belichick the coach in waiting, like let's say Ohio State loses in the first round and fires Ryan Day. I would imagine they would talk to Bill Belichick, but they would zero chance they would give Steve Belichick coach in waiting.
Yeah.
So like a lot of the big programs like LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan would probably be interested if they had an opening in Bill Belichick, but they would never agree to Steve Belichick coach in waiting. Well, UNC is kind of in that sweet spot. Big program, has a chance to recruit high-level players. I mean, they just had Drake May. They've had great players over the years. They're in a fertile ground of right there in Georgia and Florida. They can recruit no problem. They got money because of the basketball program, but they're also kind of desperate. And they, they just went back to the well with Mac Brown. So I think the Steve Belichick thing would feel pretty real. Now you could go on the other side. Like if you're Steve, why would you want that? Kind of same thing you'd say about Bronny. Now Steve's older than Bronny. Like, why would you want this weird pressure of being involved in this? But I mean, sometimes, when you have powerful dads, it's not up to you.
It would be pretty cool to see Belichick on the sideline, a big time
I'm all for
football playoff game. Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool to see. Okay, let's talk Philadelphia Eagles. So coming off of a lackluster win versus the Panthers last week. The Battle of Pennsylvania coming up against the Steelers this week. I know you have a pick for that later, but I had a problem with A.J. Brown. They asked me, what's going on with this team? What are the issues? And he just flat out says passing. It's okay if you have that opinion, but I do think that you should keep that to yourself, especially with a team like the Eagles, who really went off the rails at the end of last season. So do you think that's a big deal or no deal at all?
Well, I guess the public learns about it, but it's pretty clear this is not something that internally, like, they are shocked at. I mean, Brandon Graham's comments spoke for themselves. A.J. Brown does not like him. And, part of the reason that when he got traded there, we hyped up the marriage before they even played a game was they were good buddies. And let's face it, like, we've all been in relationships with friends that you fall out of favor with. And most of our friendships usually aren't work related. So when you have a close relationship work related and, you're in an industry like the NFL where there's a lot of pressure, you are dependent on each other as a wide receiver quarterback, like, things can get weird. And let's face it, like, Jalen Hurts, if you're A.J. Brown, you're going, well, this guy's making $45-50 million. He's not a great passer. Passing is not really he's a good playmaker, but just in terms of basic plays, he just barely threw for 100 yards against the Carolina Panthers. And there were a lot of clips going viral of being open. Listen, it's football. It's hard. But, like, I just think A.J. Brown thinks that for whatever reason, their relationship is something's clearly really off. And I think it probably goes back to the hype the player gets, the amount of money he gets. Like, there's just natural resentment. Now, can you put that to the side, like, this gets back to business, and just figure out a way to win? Because, AJ is not just one of the best players in the Eagles, he's one of the best players in the league. So you got to get his mind right. This is why, it's crazy, man. It's easy to look at the Giants or the Patriots or the Raiders. It's really hard to be a head coach when you're losing. It's hard to be a head coach when you're winning. I mean, this is a serious issue now. And I think you got to find a way. But I'm sure you've had these situations. If I don't like another guy, and there might be no coming back from that. So it's like, we can have a meeting, but if you've done things for whatever we don't know all the details, but the way Brandon Graham laid it out, it's like, yeah, their relationship's kind of over. he can walk it back all he wants. Like, come on, we're all human. He said what he said. We've all been in similar situations with other people.
Yeah, maybe a bit of a red flag, a bit of a house of cards potentially for the Eagles. Okay, let's talk Bryce Young. So when we're talking, 3 months ago, 2.5 months ago, it looked like he was done. It looked like he was completely shot. It looked like he was one of the biggest busts in the history.
5 games ago. I mean, I don't even think like at the beginning. Mid-season.
Yeah. So how much has your perception of him changed over the past couple of weeks? The stats aren't going to blow anyone away, but he's not making a lot of mistakes. The Panthers are in a lot of these games. You got to assume that they're breathing a major sigh of relief, right?
Have to be. This might sound hyperbolic. I think it's one of the greatest midseason turnarounds we've ever seen.
Wow.
I mean, because he felt like he was out of the league. Like, this was a guy that could, in the offseason, get cut, get traded for peanuts, then move on. Like, he could not play. He looked like an unplayable guy. Like, if he had been a mid-round pick or a late-round pick, he not only would have been benched, he could have been cut. And for him to get benched and then Andy Dalton to get in the car accident and him to come back and look like, if you watch that Eagle game and the Chiefs game, you cannot listen. I haven't even looked at the box score. I have no clue what his box score was against the Eagles, but I was blown away by his pocket movement, his playmaking, his confidence. He just looked like the guy that they drafted Alabama. Now, does that mean he's going to be some Pro Bowl player? Who knows? He's got a long way to go, but like, he's a real player now. And there is no question that, like, especially based on the quarterback draft, he's going to be their starting quarterback next year. Like, he actually feels right. If you've watched the Panthers for the last whatever month, I mean, they're playing well. They easily could have beat the Eagles. If Leggett doesn't drop the ball, he rolls in the end zone. It's a touchdown. Obviously, the Chiefs game, if the defense, just gets a stop, they win that game. They'd won a couple games before that. I mean, they're just playing really, really well. I'll give them a win in the bye week with how the momentum's going. So I've been impressed with the Panthers. They are like, they're a fun. There are some teams right now that are unwatchable. I don't know.
Yeah.
if you had money on the Titans or the Jags, but that's like an unwatchable game.
It's rough.
Giants Saints, unwatchable. Any
Yeah.
game that involves the Raiders, unwatchable. The Panthers and the Eagle game, like that was just a fun football game, I thought.
Imagine they go out and draft a Travis Hunter, throw some money at T. Higgins potentially, give Bryce
But
Young
if they keep playing like this, they're going to end up drafting like sixth. They might win another, like before, whenever you looked at the schedule, like halfway through, any team that played them toward the end, you're like win.
Yeah,
they're just a tough out. Like you're just not guaranteed if they're going to play as hard as they've been playing. Even if they're a big underdog, they could beat anybody. Now they could also lose to anybody. That's why this week, I think people are kind of overreacting, but still.
Yeah, no gimmies versus the Panthers anymore. Okay, John, take a look into your crystal ball. Who's a team that sucks right now and that has sucked all season that you think at this time next year could be in playoff contention? Kind of like how the Broncos are this year. Last year, they showed a little bit of life towards the end of the season, but for the most part, they suck. Now they're sitting pretty, and it looks like they're going to be in a playoff spot. So who's a team that you think that sucks now that could be in playoff contention this time next season?
Well, if you look at the Broncos, the big reason for their turnaround, obviously their defense has been consistently much better, but they have stability at the quarterback position. So I think you have to look, like if the Raiders draft a quarterback, and let's say they get the number 1 pick and they take Shador and they get a new coach, like they are like they can't even function. They have one of the worst quarterback situations in recent memory. Just like this guy's in, then he gets hurt, or this guy gets benched, and then he comes in. You just can't function like that. And they got good players. So to me, they're a franchise that, like, if they fire Antonio Pierce and Tom Brady, they get Mike Vrabel and they get Shador Sanders or sign Sam Darnold, like that's a huge swing. And that's another kind of, if Sam Darnold leaves Minnesota and signs a deal with the Giants, right? Or the Bears are a good example that they have talent. Now they're in a tough division. But if they get a real coach, like they should look completely different. That's the thing with the NFL. Use the Broncos as an example. The Chargers last year, I think people forget because they have similar, Herbert was on the team, Mac, Bosa. They won 5 games. And at this time last year, I think it might have been this week, they lost to the Raiders on Thursday Night Football like 100-20.
Yeah, that was bad.
So now you watch the Chargers, and even though they lost Sunday night, like they went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. So to me, it's either a team that's going to get a new coach and just get complete life that already has their quarterback, like the Bears. And maybe they're not like a 10-win team next year, but they're a real start-to-finish team. And to me, the Raiders, because how do you even judge them? Their quarterback situation in college, they would have already hit the transfer portal. Like it's that bad. I mean, it's tough to watch. I feel, listen, the Raider fans for 20-plus years, it's a lot of – this year feels – kind of like late Al Davis level dysfunction because of just the inept offense. And Brock Bowers looks like one of the better rookies we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a rough scene there for the Raiders. Do you think they'll fire another coach, though? All they do is every other season they're firing a head coach here, right? It's getting out of control.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you're like, well, give him time. But, like, did they really want to hire him in the first place? He felt kind of obligated to, like, He had Max Crosby and Devontae Adams taking him to dinner, begging for the guy to get hired. And then all of a sudden, a couple games into the season, it's like Devontae had turned on him and wanted out. Mm-hmm. And Crosby has tried to be very professional about it, but you can tell, like, he's not really into this. And it's such a waste. Football, unlike like the NBA or Major League Baseball, you could be a Max Crosby and, like, your career can last longer and trades happen more often. Like in the NFL, you can just get stuck on a crappy team because your true prime might be like 4 or 5 years. And it's like, I just wasted my whole career. Like even JJ Watt, like at least his team was like making the playoffs, even if they were one and done. Like they were a competitive franchise. Max Crosby, he goes into the season like our over-under is like 4 or 5. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah, some guys get burned right out of the gate based on what team.
Like I wonder, and that could also why I would probably choose the Bears on what you asked over the Raiders, because I think if let's say the Raiders get an influx of new people this offseason, which would be like the 15th time in the last 5 years, maybe they just go, hey, listen, it's time to just like really start over? Like, could we trade Max Crosby for a couple ones, draft a quarter, and just kind of take a deep breath and start from scratch instead of trying to, piecemeal this thing together like it feels like they always do?
Okay, John, best bet time. 3 for the NFL, 1 for college football. A pattern here with your picks. You like some road dogs, and we're going to start things off in Carolina, where the Panthers are favored in a football game for the first time in almost 2 years. I know they're keeping things tight, but that has been entirely as an underdog. So I guess this is the state of things for the Dallas Cowboys, who are a 2.5-point underdog in this game, and you like Dallas to cover the spread here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dallas is a better team. And I actually think Dallas looked pretty good on Monday night relative, and they've played well since Dak got hurt. Obviously, Parsons coming back has been a huge addition to their team. Now, that overshown injury is pretty devastating. You don't even, it's like, who, I remember early in the season, like, who's this guy? Because obviously last year he missed the season with his knee injury. Before he got injured, I mean, he would make 2 or 3 impactful plays. So then you add Parsons back with him, Diggs, like they have a real defense, Zimmer, that kind of calmed them down. Now, that loss, the one thing that makes me nervous, like I can't take the Panthers as a favorite. That seems, and I'm pro the Panthers, but that feels a little crazy. We're going to find out if Dallas has any more fight. I think Mike's done a really good job. I think he saved his job. The guys are still playing hard. Dottle's running well. The Panthers defense is not good. You should be able to score on them. So I think this is a value play. Is it, short week, devastating injury for one of your better players, devastating loss, the way that, they touched the block punt, which, I mean, it's like football 101 when it passed the line of scrimmage. You saw his teammates go like this, but there's just value here. I could get burned. Maybe there's a game like the Panthers win. I either see the Cowboys, whoever wins this game is going to win it easy. I can see the Dallas winning by touchdown plus, or the Panthers finally win a game by 10 plus points. So it's a risky bet. I'm acknowledging that.
Okay, next up, let's go to Denver. A couple teams coming off their bye. The Colts in town. They are a 4-point dog, and you like the Colts to give them a game.
Yeah, I just like the Colts against Bills, Ravens, Lions type teams when you're giving them over a field goal. Both these teams are coming off byes. Anthony Richardson has clearly shown life since he's got back, come back into the starting lineup. Indy is really, really desperate right now. I mean, they're technically, this is one of those swing games, like you're kind of still alive and you're playing a team ahead of you. Yeah. So it's always a tough trip for even good teams going on the road to Mile High. But, you got a chance to take a deep breath. I think really Anthony Richardson's given them some life. Not saying that Denver's riding high, but it's gone as well as it could have gone, given how, what was their over under this year? 5.5, 6? People thought they were going to suck.
One of the lowest in the league.
And I don't want to say I feel like they're a borderline. They win this game, they're a lock for the playoffs. Yeah. I guess if they were to lose, it could get a little weird. But I've hammered the Colts a lot this season when I get them in a spot like this. They play in a lot of close, weird games, don't they?
They do. And, Anthony Richardson, a bit of a loose cannon roller coaster ride. So we'll see what he brings to the table here in Denver on Sunday. Okay, one of the games of the week. It drives me nuts that they have this game going at the same time as Bills Detroit, but the schedule is a schedule. Maybe they couldn't have moved things around, but it is the Battle of Pennsylvania. The Steelers, a 5-point underdog at the Eagles. Now, John, the Steelers, an incredible bet as an underdog, not just against the spread. They have won and covered in 7 straight regular season games as an underdog. Go back even further, 14-4 straight up and against the spread in their last 18 regular season games as an underdog. I'm surprised this is at 5. I could have saw a 3, maybe a 3.5. And you like the Steelers to cover here.
To me, that number is way too high. It's just an auto hammer. This is the Tomlin spot. If that number had been, if they were viewing these two teams close to equal and it was 1.5, you'd be like, whoa, that's a little weird, right? The Steelers, were plus 1.5 on the road to Philly. You'd be like, that's a little weird. Field goal would be, it's like, okay, 5 points. Watching the Steelers last week against the Browns, who, listen, their record's going to be terrible. But once Jameis started, they're a real team. They are a really hard out. I thought Russell made 2 or 3 of the better passes. a lot of his explosive plays have just been these lollipop right down the field passes to Pickens. On the move, sidearm throws, touchdowns. Like, damn, Russell's really playing pretty well. And Tomlin, the defense, I saw his quotes before I hopped on with you this morning. Like, it's going to be, hey, Saquon, we're going to try to hold you under 50, 60 yards. And you know what A.J. Brown thinks of Jalen? We're going to make you throw for 250, 300 yards against us to beat us. Because we are not going to let, under any circumstances, Saquon just roam for $150 because we'll lose. But we will put everything, and listen, they got the horses, right? I mean, how many defensive linemen does this team have? It doesn't. You just like, who's this guy rushing the passer? It's another guy. And they got arguably the best, if not top 2 or 3 pass rusher in TJ Watt. So this is one of those unique, it's not a rivalry because they're in different conferences, but it's a big state, it is a big game. And there are going to be a lot of Steeler fans there as well. The Eagles will see how they they're a ticking time bomb, right? This is either going to bring them closer together, or it's like, what if Jalen has another game where he throws for $120 and they lose 23-15? What's everyone in the microphone after the game? AJ's got 2 catches. What's he going to say then? Because I think what AJ's alluding to is like, yeah, Saquon's carrying us, but we can't pass. So, okay, we beat the Panthers, and we beat the Ravens in a game where Jalen didn't throw for that many yards. We're not going to go where we want to go with him throwing for $110. This is not Jimmy Garoppolo in the NFC Championship. Like, we're going to need some games where he throws for 200, 250 yards against the Packers, the Lions, to beat the Steelers. Yeah. This is not a sustainable model.
We are aligned there. Okay, let's talk a little college football, then we'll let you get on your way. So a great tradition in sports betting is usually taking the under in the Army-Navy game. It was at 40 to open the week. People have been pounding that under. It's down to 38 and a half. You're going contrarian here. You are going to take the over for this matchup.
Well, don't quote me on this, but this has to be these two teams' records coming into this game, 8-3 and like 11-1. One of the best matchups. 19 wins combined coming into the game. It feels like in my adult life, the last 20 plus years. If you click on their two teams' seasons, because listen, most people aren't dialed into Navy Army. These two teams, part of the reason they're scoring 35, 40, 45 points every single week. It's why when Navy played Notre Dame, which turned out to be a blowout, which obviously Notre Dame's really good. People thought Navy had a legit chance because like this offense. You watch Army, watching the ASU game, I have my second TV on the Army game. They dominated that game on Sunday or Saturday morning. And it's like both these two teams can score. Now, you could argue they are actually most equipped to play each other because they practice against it every single week. So sometimes the uncommon opponent not used to the way they play offense. But like 25-20, like this has to be two of the better offenses for these two teams. I went to this game when I worked for the Eagles because the game was in Philly. And, most years this is really hard to score a touchdown. I do think this is somewhat of an outlier matchup with how good this is. Listen, I don't know that it's been a long history for this matchup, but at least in recent memory, it has to be two of the better versions of these two teams playing each other.
Yeah, I would love to see a shootout on Saturday.
That'd be awesome.
Teams. Oh, yeah, it'd be great. Okay, so next week, we will get your official national championship winner prediction. We'll save that until then. Until then, John, best of luck with those bets this weekend. Best of luck with your other content, and we will catch you again next Wednesday.
See you, buddy.
Yes, sir. The man right there on fire. Lots to talk about in the world of the National Football League and college football. And there's a lot to talk about in the NBA here as well. The NBA Cup. And if we're talking NBA Cup, we're talking with Mr. North Carolina, as he likes to be called. Hoping for a big Bill Belichick announcement today there, Metler, or what?
Just getting ready. Got my Bill Belichick jacket on. I think it would work well for him. I think you guys were kind of kicking around there with Middlekauff. If you go into an NFL team, it's really hard to establish that culture. When you go into college, it's pretty easy, right? Because you can kick everyone out, every player out, and you can bring in all your guys who are going to fit your style. You saw Deion Sanders do it when he went to Colorado. It was like, hey, if you're not in the portal, get in there, get out of here. Like, I'm bringing in my own players. So from like a culture standpoint, I do think it might work. So Kind of interesting.
Can you imagine? They talk about like, Belichick doesn't want to be recruiting and blah, 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 blah. You take some big time high school quarterback, you have the NIL money. On top of that, you have Bill Belichick and maybe a little Michael Jordan as part of the recruitment process.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That's pretty serious. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more I like it. People talked about some stuff. Oh, he lost his fastball in the NFL. I think maybe he was trying to do too much towards the end with the Patriots, maybe proving like, yeah, we don't need a big time quarterback. And you have Matt Patricia as the offensive coordinator. That was a really bad look. I think something like that is maybe something that some NFL teams can't get past, but I would like to see it. I would love to see that big primetime game on ABC with, North Carolina, Clemson, Belichick on the sideline. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Well,
so I'm up for it.
That's the other thing too. You're not talking about like Alabama or Ohio State. It's North Carolina, and just being like 9-3, 8-4, they would be happy with that. And you're in the ACC where, you're not in the SEC, all these things. That's why I also think it would work, right?
Well, it's funny, like with Colorado, I know they have some good players, but like a big part of the appeal and the attraction is the head coach, Deion Sanders, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something you see a whole lot in sports where people are tuning in because of a head coach. North Carolina would have that appeal.
Oh, they would.
Bill Belichick is there, right? It's very interesting. I would love to see it happen. Okay, so we each got a split on our picks there in the NBA Cup. I was right not to fade the Magic. I believe they did cover the spread last night versus the Bucks, who did win, but I hit the first quarter over in that one. Sometimes these weirdo bets, you dig into them. They got off to a slow start in the first quarter, but they ended up easily going over in that one. OKC and Dallas went under, so the Bucks and the Thunder move on, and I believe they're both on to the round that will take place in Las Vegas, correct?
Yeah, semifinals. So then the next two, whoever wins tonight will go to the semifinals as well. Then the losers play each other in a regular season game.
Yeah, some good-looking potential here with the teams playing tonight. Okay, so let's get things started off in New York. The Atlanta Hawks in town. I'm going to take the Hawks here as an 8-point underdog. Oof, 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 oof. Let's go, Hawks here. I think this is too many points. Atlanta is red hot as an underdog here. 6-1 straight up and against the spread since November 6th. And these aren't dinky little wins they're picking up either. Wins over the Bucks. They beat the Cavs twice. They beat the Celtics, and they beat these New York Knicks. And they do tend to keep it close versus the Knicks. They beat the Knicks a lot too. So they've either won or kept the game within this spread in 7 of their last 9 meetings against the Knicks. They get up to play New York, especially in New York. Everyone knows the Trae Young versus the Knicks stuff, right? So that's kind of like trend-based analysis. What about some stats here? I think the Hawks are going to be able to dominate in the paint. So check out the last 10 games, specifically rebounding. 2nd versus 19th in rebound percentage. Look at offensive rebound. 4th versus 25th in offensive rebound percentage. 3rd versus 20th in opponent offensive rebound percentage, all favoring, of course, the Atlanta Hawks, who are also 2nd in points in the paint over the last 10 games. And also backdoor cover potential. Maybe the Knicks are leading from wire to wire, but they're not a good fourth quarter team. They are dead last in the NBA in fourth quarter point margin this season. Over the last 10 games, they're 25th in net rating, specifically in the fourth quarter. The back door might be open for the Hawks if they do need it. I think it's too many points. I will take them to cover. A name that's been popping up quite a bit on the show, Dyson Daniels. Do you like a prop for him, John?
Yeah, I went Dyson Daniels over 3.5 assists plus 135. So he'll be in the game. He's going to play his usual minutes like he always does. But specifically tonight, his assignment will be Jalen Brunson. And Dyson Daniels leads the NBA in steals. He's one of the favorites for Defensive Player of the Year. He's also he can move laterally with Brunson, but he has a 6'11 wingspan. That's Brunson's a smaller guard. That's going to be a problem for him. So when you just look at this from Dyson Daniels' perspective, you have an edge on this number if he plays his normal allotment of minutes. But this is NBA Cup. This is him guarding Brunson. So do I think his minutes should be elevated? They probably should be. And when you look at the Knicks defense and how Dyson gets his assists, he likes to penetrate the lane. He doesn't have much scoring game from there. So he's typically looking for a dump off. and it's dump offs to Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, his bigs. And last game, I don't know, Jalen Johnson's questionable, but like Larry Nance Jr. was also started and was in the game. And the weak point of that Knicks defense is the rim protection of Karl-Anthony Towns. So if Daniels is able to get into the lane and dump it to his bigs, they should be able to convert those potential assists. And he should also just be involved in actions in general, because he probably will be guarded by Brunson on the offensive end. And they're going to want to go at Brunson. Brunson's the worst defender. So that should also get Daniels involved in the offense. So I went Dyson Daniels over 3.5 assists.
Shout out to Nairobi Pittman. The Sweet Boys are back, everybody. You're goddamn right. Thank you, Nairobi, for chiming in. A lot of guys in the live chat here. I'm with you all the way, Joe. Hey, we appreciate the positivity around here. Okay, another good-looking game in the Western Conference going down. The Rockets playing host to the Warriors. The Rockets, a very exciting team all of a sudden. I'd like to see them trade for Jimmy Butler. The Warriors rumored to maybe in the mix here for Butler as well. Either way, these two teams going at it in Houston. I like the under of 222.5 here. So red hot defenses versus ice cold offenses. So last 10 games, 3rd and 6th in defensive rating versus 22nd and 26th in offensive rating. 27th and 29th in effective field goal shooting percentage, 2nd and 5th in opponent EFG shooting percentage. This could be a marriage made in under heaven here. 9 of Golden State's last 11 games have stayed under this number, and these teams played on Thursday. They combined for just 192 points in that game. Now, I know history doesn't always repeat itself, but 192 points on Friday, this total's 30 points higher than that. So, I like the under quite a bit tonight in Houston. Buddy Hield here for the Warriors. What do you like for him?
Yeah, I went Buddy Hield over 1.5 assists, and I say this with this tone because I stared at it and I was like, I don't know if I want to place this, but then I kept looking at it longer. Projecting how Steve Kerr is going to run his rotations is literally the last thing you want to do this entire season. It is all over the place. You'll see him play 13 guys. You'll see a guy play 30 minutes. You'll see him play 10. What grabbed my attention with Buddy Hield was that you had a massive edge on this number, and the number I tweeted out, that was with him playing 18 minutes. Like, that's not a lot of minutes. His season averages 23, and last game he started and played 34. So is it potential to be way higher? Could be, but at least I kind of feel like at his floor, you still had a big edge here. So that's why I ultimately decided to hit the button on this bet. The Rockets, so Buddy Hield, the way he gets his assists is, he comes off screens. He's looking to shoot threes. If a team is very disciplined and they get around the screens and they guard them and they don't let those threes off, he will dump it to the person setting the screen for a layup or a dunk. And I feel like how good the Rockets are on defense could actually play into Buddy Hield getting assists, because they're not going to lose him on the 3-point line. They're going to guard him. They're going to chase him over screens. And if they successfully do that, it could generate potential assists for Buddy Hield. So that's why I ultimately decided to play the over. There is a chance you place this bet and he plays 15 minutes, you're going to be disappointed, but he could also play 35. So I just ultimately decided to hit the button here. Give me Buddy Hield over 1.5 assists.
Okay, so a bit of a light week here in the NBA. 2 games last night, 2 games tonight, 3 games tomorrow. I got my eye on that under of 230.5 between Kings and Pelicans. John and I, of course, will be covering those games on tomorrow's show. To recap today's picks, I like the Hawks here, +8. Warriors, Rockets under 222.5. Dyson Daniels over 3.5 assists, and Buddy Hield over 1.5 assists, +170. Plus money there for John. So that's it for today's show. Pretty efficient. Covered a lot here in 35 minutes. Great big show, though, planned for tomorrow. Decent looking Thursday night football game. Rams, 49ers. Neither team is out of the playoff hunt yet. Whoever loses probably will be. Especially the 49ers are hanging on by a thread at this point. They would have to win out, I would think. But good looking game there. A couple games in the NBA to break down as well. So we will be right back with you guys then. Same time, same place. Thank you to both Johns for joining today. Thanks to producer Mick. Did a great job producing the show. Thank you to BetMGM, fantastic sponsor of the show. Make sure you check them out for all of your sports betting needs. And thank you to all of the great guys and gals watching the show. Those of you live in the live chat, we appreciate you guys very much. So best of luck with your bets tonight. We will catch you guys again tomorrow. Let's go Atlanta Hawks. +8, baby. Woo! Yeah.